Welcome everyone to FATED Connections, episode number 86. We're 2 weeks into Lake of Calandra, and for a lot of people it already feels like we've been going for a lot longer. And part of that may have been that we just did so many podcasts that contributes to the feeling, because like we already did so many episodes that normally by this podcast episode we'd be 2 months in. But yeah, I was a little bit over ambitious with planning out podcasts before the league, because there wasn't a podcast in so long since before the gauntlet, and then just went overboard because I also felt there's so many awesome people in the community that I really want to include them more. And there's some people where I was like, hey, these people haven't been on for more than 6 months, and it just feels weird if not every league everyone gets a chance to speak. So planned out a lot of them, and both Balor and I concluded already that it's probably a little bit too much. But in the context of the current league, since there's so much controversial stuff to talk about, I think it's actually kind of good. Just don't expect from us that we're doing this again in the future. We're probably going to scale it down to one every 1 or 2 weeks in the long run. But I'm super happy to be able to welcome some new guests into the podcast today again, or some, different people than we've had on the previous episode. Welcome DS Lily and Iiyra. How are you guys doing? Lily, tell us all about your 100K follower celebration from yesterday. How did that go? And congrats on reaching that goal. I mean, you actually didn't quite reach it, right? You're still off a little bit. You don't, no doubt you're going to reach it. You're going through the roof. Close enough to already celebrate.
Yeah, went pretty good. Scuffed as usual. I mean, next time I need to make it so my camera's not so shit. Well, I mean, that's because it was really gross, but you couldn't really tell how gross it was on camera.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah. You kind of like took a lot of a burden, like a lot of grossness for very little grossness that arrived at the actual viewer. Yeah. But maybe for the better. And probably a very, very welcome time off of PoE for you.
Yeah, any variety is going to be pretty good this league. Yeah. See, I don't mind when leagues go poorly, because then I can just do other stuff.
Yeah, I've also seen Zizran on Twitter, like doing his honeymoon and his wedding and everything, and it seems like it was just planned from the start that this league's going to be a not so important league for a lot of people, just so that Zizran could get his time off without feeling bad. Of course, that's a weird conspiracy theory, but anyway.
Sure, some Redditors have made that point.
My favorite conspiracy theory so far has been they're intentionally tanking it so their stock price goes down so they can buy it back from Tencent at a low price and then change everything back and save it again. That one was hilarious. I actually love that one. It's not real. I just love it.
Yeah, quite possibly. Well, also, we welcome Iiyra. How are you doing? Welcome back on the podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
It's awesome to have you. How are you doing? How are you feeling currently?
Oh, currently? I got lots of stuff going on, but yeah. In regards to the league, I've been having fun for the most part.
That's good. Do you want to talk a little bit about what your league started with, and tell us how that's been going with the strategy that you picked?
Oh, a strategy? More like.
Well, I mean,
I started, I think 4 or 5 days after the league start, because the timing ended up not being great for me. So I kind of missed some of the fun bullshit, but
Stream's having trouble hearing her.
Oh, okay. Right.
Crank it up.
Yeah, I kind of should have also asked you to say something when I asked chat whether the volumes are okay.
All good. Continue.
All right, say something.
Hello.
Is that loud enough, chat?
Yeah.
I can pump it up.
I think last time I was super low too.
All right, just repeat your last sentence then. You've been
So
having
I
fun
started
with.
I started like 4 or 5 days late into the league, so I didn't really get to experience firsthand all the like initial stuff that was going on for all the hot fixes. Um, but I started in a private league. Me and is not hosted private league with a handful of people. So I've been playing in that. I started Shield Crush, Zerker. I started off with War Cries, got tired of crying, so then I transitioned to crit, pretty much. Crit and Pale, Shield Crush. So I've been blasting on that. Not really a bosser, but it's kind of like a worse bone shatter, I'd say. But pretty comparable.
So that was what I tired of crying was
Yeah.
about. I thought
Dude,
it was about the league.
I was having so much fun. I was like living my best life, like, oh, slam days, all these war cries. And then like after 2 days, I'm like, I'm so tired of pressing the buttons already.
How many buttons are in that build?
More than I could bind to any.
Oh no. Like
It was
more
cool at
than
first, though.
3 already
yeah.
causes me like problems. I can
Well,
have a movement skill and 2 other buttons. That's
yeah. It wasn't too like, I don't know. It wasn't giving me pain, but it was just kind of annoying that I had to figure out like different configurations, everything, which I had forgotten about. So
Do you actually use the skill bar swap on that note, or do you bind them to separate keys?
I usually bind 2 of them to my mouse, and then the others, it kind of depends on what the build is, what I do.
Okay, one more technical thing. Could you lower your threshold on the Discord a little bit? You just cut out there really hard. There was like a word that didn't
Threshold?
come through. Yeah, the mic opening threshold in the Discord audio settings. Like it automatically has like a noise gate where it mutes your mic when you're not talking. My bad for not saying that
Oh, the
beforehand.
sensitivity?
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
that's the one.
Yeah.
If you just lower it a tiny bit so that when you say a word that's slightly more silent than the previous sentence, it doesn't get removed.
Yeah.
All right, chat again. Everything fine? Troubleshooting chat? All right, sounds good. So then I want to hear from Lily also how the league start went and what have you been playing. What was it? Blade Blast Occultist?
It feels like it's been so long. I was planning to go Blade Blast, but so I started as Poison Concoction, but then I died to Arch Nemesis mod that buffed a bunch of minions, so my Plague Bear didn't instantly kill them, and then I died.
Oh right, I remember that clip. That was rough.
Then I re-rolled Lightning Conduit after it. Real fun build. I should have done it as Inquisitor, thinking back now, because then I got 2-shotted by Pinecone. The tree mob thing, Trent Horde. Overtuned, by the way, please there. Then I went. Then I gave up and just went Champion Helix and gave up any kind of fun.
So the first character was still in HDSSF, right? Going for the race? And was that after the first character that you migrated to HD Trade, or was the second one also still in HDSSF? When did you make the decision to go HD Trade?
I think I just migrated after my death. I think. Maybe it was my second character.
Have you tried the lightning strike since the patch got hit? Apparently lightning strike got even better. It just doesn't get caught on anything anymore. No pebbles, no stones, no rocks, no doorways, no nothing.
I did try Lightning Strike for a bit, but I just swapped back to Helix because my build was incredibly scuffed. So I didn't want to play Helix anymore, so I swapped earlier than I should have, and I did like 0 damage.
Fair.
Damn. That's probably also just because Helix is too good. It just makes you feel too confident about your gear and everything, and then yeah, sounds terrible. The other problems with Arch Nemesis? Anything during leveling before the most recent patch?
I mean, I don't know. I think it feels fine with this patch now. Maybe a little bit annoying before this one. I mean, it's still annoying at times, but less so. I mean, I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I've always thought it's mostly fine. I just wish they'd tone back the on death effects and Deadeye and Executioner. Besides that, though, I don't really have any major plans.
How do you feel about Arch Nemesis Iiyra?
On its own, I think I don't like it. I didn't like Arch Nemesis even as a league mechanic, but since it's here, I think pretty much agree with Illy. I think they need to tone down the on death effects. The Mirage change is nice, but I feel like they still need to kind of tone down some of the stuff, especially when things overlap.
Yeah. I don't know if it's even an on. I don't even know what causes it. The lightning totem thing that chases you around. That one could go.
Yeah, what is it? Heralding minions, right?
Yeah.
Is that the one that causes that? Right. I hate it. I hate it so much. I can never find the minion that does it, and he gets me while I'm looting.
The worst part
I
of
don't
it
know
is
if it's
it's like
just me, but I never have an issue with that mod, but everybody screams about it.
I think
had
if you
an
have a
issue.
decent clear build, it doesn't really affect you because you're just getting AoE clear. But I think, like, because my build kind of attacks in a cone, so if mine doesn't hit it in that cone, then I'm walking around like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
For me, it was in the beginning. I didn't know what I'm looking for. Also in Arch Nemesis, like it just had a really hard time learning all the mods and knowing what to look out for in the new pool of mods. And now that we're used to it, I'm happy. But I think heralding minions, isn't that also on blue packs now? It was only on rares before, and now after Arch Nemesis went core, I think it's also on blue packs. And specifically in Delve, it's really annoying. Like Delve, where a lot of times you also just kill monsters too slowly and you have to walk past them because you need to stay with the cart and you leave them behind. That's where a lot of those mods that persist are annoying, like the heralding minions, and also specifically the Deadeye that like permanently marks you with something, and then the mark just stays on you forever because marks don't expire anymore. They don't have a max duration, so it's like it feels really weird. And yeah, there's a number of outliers like that where Arch Nemesis really still feels bad, but on the whole, I wouldn't want to go back to the old rare mod system at all. I just think overall it's like so promising for the future. And I know a lot of people are gonna hate me for that, and I don't want to downplay frustrations with Arch Nemesis. I just personally don't feel that much of an issue with it.
I mean, I think it's better for the game overall. Just I think they should have tested it a lot more and maybe tweaked it before just kind of slamming it in the game like 6 times. Like last league at the start and this league at the start, and
I'd also agree that it's mostly a start problem because, like, first of all, the league is not very generous this time around, so a lot of people just don't get the currency early on to make gear. Like, I'm saying early maps and through the act playthrough, and that's where most of the frustrations with Arch Nemesis arise, I think. Because that's when you don't have anything that you can do to combat it. But as you like upgrade your characters and everything flattens out, I think it's mostly fine.
I've been saying this one for a few days as well. I think on the podcast as well and on stream. I really think at the bottom of our Atlas tree we could just have 2 keystone nodes. One that gave you 1 less Arch Nemesis modifier in every rare and made God touched ones like twice as rare, and one that added one more on your mobs and didn't make God Touch more common. Just added one more modifier, and so that we would have like the baseline, and then a button for one passive point to make it easier, and a button for one passive point to make it harder.
Yeah, we discussed this at length on the last podcast. I'm curious what our guests today have to say about that. Iiyra, what would you say about such a suggestion?
I mean, it sounds like only probably one you'd even use early maps would just be the removing one mod on Archnem, but even then, I don't know. Especially like putting it at the beginning of a tree, like I'm probably not gonna bother hitting it for the most part, honestly.
So that's the reason I like the idea, is because like it just lets you be like, I'm okay with it how it is, or this is way too difficult. I'm not able to do this. I'm gonna press the button to make it easier. Or be like me, like I like getting my ship pushed in, so I'm just gonna press the go hard button on every character, even if I can't take it, because it's fun.
I think it would depend on how they plan on balancing like how certain ones overlap each other. If that were ironed out, I think like the idea of just removing one to make it easier might not even be as relevant. The other one could be interesting though for later.
I'm not sure whether they actually should do that, whether they actually should go and exclude certain mods from combining with other mods, like have a table, on the one axis you have all the mods, and on the other one you have all the mods and then all the possible combinations, and just exclude some mods from combining with other ones. Let Executioner not happen with like something that causes strong degens or something like that. I don't know. Maybe. But that would, I think, take away a lot from the random generation and like how cool it is to have all the different combinations. I think that should rather balance it around the fact that everything can occur at the same time. But a more general question in regards to this is, do you feel that the game should take you out of your comfort zone during like regular map blasting? Because that's something I've seen a lot of controversy around. Like some people think that the map blasting is like way too brain dead and you can just, run through your maps without thinking, and that it's good that Arch Nemesis disrupts that. And then there's also a big camp that says it's bad that Arch Nemesis disrupts that, because if you want to challenge yourself mechanically and like have to pay attention, then there's content for that in the form of bosses. But if you just want to blast maps and switch off your brain, that should be accommodated by the game. What is your take on that?
I don't even really care about the difficulty. I just care that like running maps period doesn't feel as good, because any sort of investment you put into it just, they don't stack the same, so you don't get the same output as you did before. Like if they made like if they hadn't touched Arch Nemesis, like the hotfixes that they did, but they made things more rewarding, then it would be fine. But you sitting there fighting a rare for 10 minutes for them to drop 15 flasks, like that doesn't feel good at all. So if they matched rewards versus the difficulty of these mods, then I think it wouldn't even really be a discussion.
You're saying they could still be harder as long as the rewards match the challenge?
Yeah.
Curious, what's your take on that, Lily?
I don't know. I mean, I think mapping should lean more towards brain dead if you're just going Alk and going. But I don't know. I'm pretty split on what I want them to do. I don't know. I think I definitely lead towards, if you want brain dead gameplay, then you can do that, and then like juicing your maps would make it so you have to pay more attention, but juicing's not really worth it anymore. So, I mean, I feel like the state the game is, it's pretty brain dead for mapping again, for the most part, besides a few like outlier scenarios. I also think most people roll their maps way too hard and don't pay any attention to it, and that probably has a lot to do with it, and that's always been an issue in the game, even before Arch Nemesis, and people roll their maps with like 6 damage mods and wonder why they're dying with their build with be generous and say moderate defenses.
I'm just going to sit here and pretend that I don't just roll my maps for 128 quality without looking at anything else. Oh,
If it
the
was
reason
just
I'm not in hardcore anymore.
if it was just the map mods, but you probably also just blindly click the altars without taking into account the downsides.
No, there's no downside. You just read the good node. You read the good line, you press the button.
What downside are you talking about?
I don't know. Sometimes I die 6 times the map and I go, it must have been altars. And then I just launch the next one.
Keep
Wait,
dying.
something
Keep
about
pressing
altars.
the percent reduce on frontsies.
Wait, so I didn't get that. Could you please repeat that, Iiyra?
Something about altars.
Okay, Lily.
I wish they would add something after you click one, somewhere to see what you just clicked. Because there's times where
100%.
I click something and I have to leave the map because I have no idea what I just pressed.
Yeah, especially in hardcore. And it's so easy because the system is already in there from Expedition. We have that from Expeditions, that you get like a little symbol where you can hover and you see which remnant mods you got from Expedition. So if we just had that for the altars, that would be amazing. Great that you bring that up.
Just please don't add it to the list of mods on my map, because it's already like this long. And you just like put one line in, I'm never gonna find it.
Just make it so that the map mods switch to the altar mods when you press your highlight button or something like that. It just swaps to a yellow list or something like that.
So, something different.
Or if you click it, they could just make it to where it lingers. Like if you hit expedition boxes when you're looting and you get remnants or anything, when they come up, you see it on the screen for like half a second. You do something like that.
Yeah. The fact that it instantly disappears the moment that you press is also kind of rough. Because a lot of people realize that the moment that they click, oh, I should read that, but then it's already gone. Yeah.
Sometimes I click it while I'm just trying to loot something too. Like I don't even mean to click it. I haven't even read. I don't know which one I pressed at all. I don't even know what the options were. It's just gone.
Yeah. Without wanting to be the death horse, but you just brought that up and it reminded me of something that I raged about a little bit on the stream just before we started up the podcast setup. Just the fact that these simple quality of life things take so long. Heist was 3.12 and we still get these heist contracts that sit in our inventory and that we can't put anywhere. And they should have wildcard slots in the heist stash, so we could just put the quest heists there. Like, you can put them into the crafting bench, you could put them into the Hordy crafting station, you could put them into the Beast crafting station, but you can't put them into the heist stash. That's, yeah. I just wish GGG was a little bit faster to follow up with these simple quality of life improvements that are really, like, undisputably making the game better. But, you know, I don't know on the technical side, obviously, how hard it is to implement. There might be some problems with that. Otherwise, I don't see why they wouldn't have already done it.
I mean, they generally don't like you saving quest items anyway, so...
I think heist contracts are a little bit different, though, from, like, regular quest items. It makes sense that, like, you don't want a new player to take the Staff of Innocence, right, and put it into into your inventory, into your stash, and then not have it when you have to hand it to Bannon, right? That makes sense. But I think with the quest heists, it's a little bit different, because those often make sense to save up, especially early on in the league, when you, like, push ahead in the maps and you get heist contracts that are the same tier as the maps, but they're like 3 or 4 levels above your character. You don't really want to run them at that point. Not even in softcore, because if you die in the heist, then the heist is gone.
Yeah, it's true.
Right. Okay, so I think we're all on board with that. Linking back to the conversation, I mean, we just said about Arch Nemesis and about the flow of mapping. I think I very much agree with, like, normal Alkengo mapping should be brain dead for the most part. And juicing things should be where the challenge is, and the challenge should also be rewarded I think we can all agree there. And I think GGG said in the past that they do want people to be able to like space out and just run maps with the occasional challenging monster. You know, when all the stars align, it's like what they always say, you know, when the perfect storm comes up, there should be a threat to your character every once in a while. But for the most part, you should be able to just stay there and do things. So, playing the game yourself, did you actually notice anything about the reward problems or the loot reduction before you engaged with the community? I'm curious because I'm sure Balor was one of the first people to notice, right? Before even that was echoed in the community. But for me personally, I didn't notice anything as HCSSF and like slow progression. Like I was like, oh, loot is fine. But then how did it feel for you as you went into Maps Era? Did you notice at any point before you read about it?
I did notice a little bit, but it was really hard to tell. It's like, is my filter just too strict for what I'm doing, or am I just unlucky, or did I not just roll enough on something? But since I had a delayed league start, I was kind of reading what people were saying, like in my Discord, and then also Reddit posts here and there that were getting reposted and retweeted. And then when I started playing, I kind of already had it in my mind, like, oh, you know, loot's not really going to be a thing since everybody's complaining about it. But I guess on my own, I did sort of notice it's a little bit less than usual, it seemed like. But again, it was kind of hard to tell because thinking it's your loot filter, thinking you're unlucky, and then also having the bias in your brain because I had already been seeing the comments everywhere.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people that plays into how they perceive it. Obviously, when there's the discourse around it, you go into it expecting a certain result, a certain feeling, and yeah, it's hard to be objective.
I did struggle really bad keeping up with map rolling currency specifically. Like, usually a League Star, I struggle a little bit to keep up with that, but can do kind of other mechanics to offset that. This time, it was like I couldn't rely on maps at all for any map rolling currency. I had to heist and I had to do other things in order to get map rolling currency. That part felt bad.
How was it for you, Lily? Did you have any...
It felt mostly fine, but I also was just doing like blue maps because HC. And I felt like there was something weird going on with map sustain a little bit when I was trying to break into reds. And I didn't have any issues with getting map rolling currency because my tree was expedition, but so that was fine for me. Oh, this is okay. I don't know if it's just me, but did they have you guys noticed like Conquered map drops are like neutered? Because I never get any of those anymore.
Somehow I've gotten more synth maps than I have Conqueror drops this league.
Like, yeah, I still haven't gotten a full Cirrus set somehow.
I don't think I ever pay attention to that. I don't think I'd have noticed that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have noticed. I died and re-rolled and played very little, so I'm not even at that point where I'm doing tier 14 plus maps. I'm still chilling and gearing my character so that I'm not dying again. But even then, I don't think I would notice a big difference. Seeing that last league I played softcore trade, I would probably chalk it down to that, like, you know, different perception because I played the game completely differently last league. So, yeah. Not sure. But as for like map rolling currency, I just did all the quest heists and all the like low level heists before I entered maps. Because, you know, how I do the HCSF start is, of course, I rush to foothills, then sit in foothills until I can't anymore to get betrayal there and get the Gravicious chest piece mod, which is really strong now with the, you know, 6% taken as lightning, 6% taken as fire. That's really juicy to have early on. As long as you're shock immune, right? Because incoming damage that's converted to lightning can shock you. So got to be aware of that. But since I was planning to run Tempest Shield anyway, pretty easy. But so I got a head start from all the heisting that I did when I unlocked all my rogues and did the quests. I had like 20 alks or something like that. I never really ran out of alks. I was able to alk all the maps. And I mean, obviously there's also bindings, and you don't want to alk every map. Sometimes, you know, when you do one that is exceptionally high for your early progression, maybe not alk it. But yeah, I didn't really feel it, even though I didn't do any lakes. But I'm being told that lakes are not rewarding at all anyway, so that doesn't make a difference.
I feel like it's a little bit better, but I think it still needs to be improved a little bit. At first, it was like dog shit garbage. Literally no point in you doing a mirror.
Weren't the first buffs already in when you started? Like 5 days
still
in?
Bad.
Yeah,
They
they
still
were still
bad.
trash.
I was surprised
feel
because
like-
I was like, oh, I'm coming in and I can do the league mechanics straight away. And I was like, don't even bother. I still have all of the mirrors saved up. I think I've only ran... The only ones I ran are the ones that happen to have Untainted Paradise to share with the private league, and that's it.
Makes sense.
I have half a tab full still. But I do feel like they're kind of almost worth running now.
Yeah, they're a little bit better, but I still feel like for the difficulty in them, I feel like they should still make it a little bit more rewarding.
Yeah, it feels a lot like they're one decent buff pass over me going, hey, I've got a whole tab full of those. I could run them now.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me in HCSSF, I don't feel they're not rewarding enough because like I'm not juicing my maps to the point where the maps are super rewarding. So I don't think the difference would be as big when I would run the lakes, and it would be offset by the fact that in the lakes I could get the really good jewelry randomly if I'm lucky, like I did when I was leveling. I got an amulet with 70 dex and 150 life and stuff like that. Good shit. But yeah, also just save them up because from what I hear, the difficulty scaling is insane. It was insane already during leveling, so I'm kind of scared at like yellow, red map level to go into those things and go up to difficulty 12, 13. I'm told that the HP scaling and the damage scaling is kind of nuts there, and that the rewards don't really scale that well into the high difficulties for most tiles. So
yeah,
I've been
Scourge
saving them.
hurts pretty bad too. Scourge, I think I tried 2 times and then helped somebody finish theirs, and all 3 of those times it was like you'd have to drag monsters like a whole tile away or 2 because they're so tanky and they do so much damage.
Yeah, base Scourge is already like really tanky and damagey. I've noticed that the other day when I like ran random Beyond maps, and unlike Balor, I'm not at all getting to the point early where I spawn a boss. For me, it's the entire map. Every like couple of packs, we spawn a whole bunch of Scourge monsters. So that's great. It adds so many monsters, but it's not worth because it adds so much time to my map clear. They take so long to kill. And it's like, yeah, they don't really give me anything.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they drop nothing. I haven't even gotten a Scourge boss on a map yet, weirdly enough. I think the only bosses I've killed have been in the lake. I haven't encountered one in maps yet.
If you throw a Delirium Orb on, they spawn like in the first quarter of your map, and then Beyond goes away.
No, thank you.
And if you don't put a Delirium Orb on, I can get the whole map done, even with like other juice. For some reason, if I add a Delirium Orb, it can be like a 70 quant map. Like I'll be like, oh, this will be fine. Delirium just, nope, Beyond's over.
Yeah.
How many lakes did you do so far, Lily? Did you completely skip all of them, or?
I've done an okay amount, but I haven't done any in a while because I don't know, it doesn't. I'm probably just gonna let them stack up and maybe hope for another buff or something because I feel like for the first like 5 or 6 difficulty, I feel like I can just ignore the rewards and run all the way to the end of the tiles. Not a huge fan of that, just running through it for like 30 seconds to get somewhere that actually gives some loot. Then I have to hope it's like a currency chest because the other ones aren't that good. And then Yeah. Although I'm playing Spark, so I kind of want to try it with the new.
I think
patch
Spark would
for-
really work there. Would really work well there, right? It's a good layout
yeah,
for Spark.
should.
But yeah, I totally get that. You don't want to run all the ones that you saved up when you're not sure whether there's still a buff coming or not. You'd feel like an idiot if you ran them all today and tomorrow they're buffing it and you're like, damn, you could have gotten so much more out of it. Lily has Echo?
The question. The question is, by the time they make them worth running, am I going to be looking at a tab so full of them that I don't want to anyway because it's like an overwhelming amount?
I'm a challenge gamer, so I have no choice.
Yep.
For egg.
That'll do it.
Yep.
Actually, that might convince me to do it too. I do want to get some challenges.
Yeah.
I said that
I
last
only
week.
want 38, but
I think if there weren't challenges relating to that, I probably wouldn't interact with it much at all. Just make them and give away the tiles or the tablets, whatever they're called.
Yeah, the tablets.
Assuming no buff.
Well, I mean, we're 2 weeks in. Are we realistically still going to see a buff to the league mechanic?
We're 2 weeks in, and I feel like we're 2 months in because of how how many changes there's been, how much communication there's been. I feel like the last time I remember feeling like this was Delirium League because there were so many issues with the mechanic, and then you couldn't see anything, and then the aura stacking stuff that they reverted on. I think that was the last time I felt like, oh my god, this feels like it feels like 2 weeks in, it felt like it was 2 months in. But this league is a lot less stimulating, I think, than Delhi was.
Yeah. Oh god. And then this league also will not have a gauntlet. We just recently heard that. So there's not even like an early sort of island that we can get ourselves to, that we can look forward to, where the regular league ends for most of us and we can get a fresh restart in a harder environment. Or like, I mean, a lot of people like Balor enjoy the viewing experience of playing Gauntlet. Wait, that's not the Gauntlet? No, it's not the Gauntlet. It's not. I've seen a lot of people throw that around as this hard mode, that they decide to not put hard mode in the game, but they actually released this league. And then Chris had to go and clarify. There's been a lot of like weird things thrown around. How do you guys deal with the overall slightly negative mood in the community surrounding this patch? If you had any problems with that, you just avoiding Reddit and it's good, or?
I mean, I don't really pay attention to what people think for the most part. It's very good for your what's the word for like mental health, but not mental health, like much less.
You don't want to
something like
disturb your chakras.
Yeah, that works. To avoid getting annoyed. Yeah.
You did throw out like
keep morale up.
You did throw out like a tweet saying that you're a little bit not so much a fan of the things that are being thrown around on Reddit, and people saying they want to quit the game and making it sound like it's the end of the world.
See, I like to laugh at it instead of get annoyed by it, which I don't know if that gets you more or less people flaming you, but I think it's funny. People get like, whenever you do something like that, or for me anyways, people either get like really mad or they completely can't read, or they like misinterpret it completely. And I need to find one. There was one that was really good.
Yeah, take your time.
They just like completely missed the mark on something.
I've seen a lot of people saying on the Reddit, like without even my involvement, I've seen a lot of people saying that they have problems with their character and with arch nemesis and with this and that. And then when people asked for their character profile, there's like a lot of people were able to provide very, very healthy, constructive feedback, what those people complaining could have done better. And I've seen a lot of people even going ahead and editing their posts and like, okay, yeah, you're right. There's a lot of things that I did wrong. And now that you helped me fix it, I'm actually not feeling that bad anymore. I mean, I'm not saying that people who are having problems are generally at fault themselves. Like, obviously, there's also people who play good builds and still have legitimate criticism. I just feel that there's a lot of, like, exaggerated drama around this league.
It's always that way, though. There's always a bunch of people exaggerating.
You got your example, Lily? Should I put it up on the screen? Do you have it posted? Hello, hello?
It's like,
Oh, yeah, there we go.
yeah. I don't know. Is this post that I don't know? I like to post just random stupid stuff on Twitter,
Right.
like suggestions or whatever. Like, even if they're not good, because it's good for impressions on Twitter. I
Right.
basically treat Twitter like a job because it's a cesspool, so I just post what I need to. But there's some people, like, in the comments that just, like, I don't know, one's like, if you don't like Poe, just don't play it, stop complaining. But I wasn't even complaining in the post. I was literally just giving a suggestion.
Yeah, it's constructive feedback. You said Arch Nemesis possible solution. Replace Rogue Exiles with Arch Nemesis rares. Always give the special loot. Make regular rares and magic mobs just have a flat life / damage buff. Also add the reward loot icon thingy above the mobs that give special rewards. So that's basically like 3 suggestions. Replace Rogue Exiles with Arch Nemesis rares that always give special loot.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but Rogue Exiles feel terrible now. With how much more life they get, and they still drop nothing.
Yeah, they should maybe have the reward loot thingy for sure. But I kind of like that because at the time when I started playing the game, like maybe it was also because my builds really sucked at that point, right? Like end of 2014, I just really didn't know what I was doing. But I remember so many fun fights with Rogue Exiles and maps, like dancing around a Magnus Stonethorn for like 20 minutes and trying to not get hit by his flame blasts, which would have been at that point like a sure one-shot for me. That I'm kind of happy that's sort of back. But I also did, the one death that I had this league was Rogue Exiles in Delve, where I went into the Rogue Exile node in Delve, level 78 or something like that, and just normally, with a minion build, they die almost instantly, at least, you know, one of them, and as soon as the 6 Rogue Exile group is reduced to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then they take more and more damage, because more and more minions focus on the same Rogue Exile, and it was really easy before, and now this time I ran around for like 10 seconds and nothing died, and I was like, oh shit, I gotta log out. And then I didn't log out in time and I died. But overall, I kind of like that Rogue Exiles have meaningful combat, but I very much agree with you that, I mean, we brought that up earlier already, that the reward should be there. There should be an incentive to deal with that extra challenge.
Their Chaos recipe fodder really, really well for an early league. We made a lot out of Ruckus just in the first few days. That's basically the end of their use. They don't really have rewards.
What's your take on Rogue Exile, Iiyra?
No opinion. Honestly, I haven't really paid much attention to them. I don't think I really had.
So they also
any
didn't
issues.
stick out.
Not really. I mean, I know some people do like Ruckus strat and stuff like that, which I never really messed around with. So I couldn't really compare like investing into Rogue Exiles versus not, and then also how they are now. I don't really feel like they've been hurting me too much, but yeah, could just be lack of a opportunities to experience them, I guess. My character's
Have you
strong enough
done
where they
it
don't
in-
really bother me.
Have you done any of the Essence memories yet?
Essence memories? I have not. I don't think I've done
So
any
there's-
memories yet. I've been saving them.
There's an Essence memory that turns all of the essence mobs in the entire map into rogue exiles, not arch nemesis. And I gotta tell you,
Interesting.
they're way more dangerous than arch nemesis mobs. They become very scary.
Yeah.
Rogue exiles with 7 essences in them is not easy.
I mean, especially in like the highest of tiers of maps, like remembering the patch notes, the rogue exiles got up to like a 500 or 400% life buff, 400% more life. That's crazy.
They're insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've only had to deal with a maximum of maybe like 3 or 4 exiles at once, not really like a swarm.
When you get an essence memory, just be prepared to die a bunch, and it'll be fun. It is. They are fun. The memories are great.
Yeah, I can't wait for the memories. They only spawn in like tier 14 plus, right? And they're very rare
They
to
only
get.
drop, yeah. But you can put them on white maps. Like you could put them anywhere you want.
Is there a reason why you would want to do that if you could put them onto higher maps as well?
Yeah, essence rewards are the same no matter where you go. Doesn't matter if you farm them in tier 16s or if you farm them in.
Well, I would assume that you get
maps.
higher tier essences more likely in higher tier, or they don't scale at all. They're just fixed.
Nope, absolutely no difference.
Okay, that's weird, champ. Why would you do the high then? Just because you don't want to waste your time doing content where you don't get XP?
No, there's no reason.
Unless you just don't know that essences don't scale.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think. I think all of the other essences are better in tier 16s. All the other memories, rather. It's really only the essence one that you do download, but that's also like, I think the most dangerous. It's actually mental.
I think I have the essence one. I think I've only gotten 2 so far on my own, and it was a harvest one and then an essence. But yeah, I haven't ran either.
The harvest ones are great.
That's what I was in here. That was the first one I dropped. Actually, I was surprised.
The harvest ones have really, really cool looking plots too. Like they're really fun. I actually enjoyed the harvest ones, and you get like enough juice. Even a week ago before they nerfed all the like point values, I was like, oh, that was so much juice. Like I can do several crafts out of this. Yeah. Like that actually felt. I was like, this is what they should all be dropping. This is like enough that I could go and use what's left of harvest.
Mm-hmm.
So those were great. We did a bunch of them early as well. I really think they need to be dropping more often. Memories are great. I think if more people were in memories, we'd have a lot less complaints. They're really good.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Why isn't the memories the league mechanic?
It's so much better than a mirror. You don't want to go to the mirrors. You want to go to the memories. That's the good stuff.
The memories are a part of the league mechanic, though, right? That's not some.
No.
I think they're base game.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, you can get them
I
in
thought
standard.
it was some like subset of Lake of Calandra something. I didn't realize that it was just core.
Which is cool. I really like the fact that they're like adding things to the game beyond the league that the people who don't play the temporary leagues get to enjoy whenever the new expansion comes around.
Yeah.
Curious what we'll get for the next league. They've been saying that they want to put a focus on adding stuff to the end game because they realize that like a lot of their most engaged players are actually people who play the game a lot and play a lot of end game. So they've been saying that every league they want to add something to end game now. So I'm curious with what they come up with.
I mean, end game for a lot of people was juicing maps, but they kind of hit that. So I feel like the only at least for myself, like the only real aspirational content at this point is just doing Uber bosses, not really juicing maps.
I agree.
Because it just feels kind of pointless.
Except that I hate bossing, which puts me in a real bad position.
Yeah. I don't mind it, but I definitely found like map juicing funner and messing around with stacking mechanics. So now I kind of feel like I'm just pushing XP so that I can reroll into something else, boss, and then that's probably going to be like the end of my league, just because boss or mapping just feels kind of bad relative to before.
Yep.
Sag.
Big Sag.
So we've already went past the point where I wanted to insert that, because we already moved on from the negativity. But my original plan for the podcast was that after the introduction, I'll read out a tweet that I posted yesterday that Balor already said that he had nothing nice to say about. I was going to be like, I'm going to read that out on stream, and then you can all hate me for it and tell me where I'm wrong. But I threw a little bit of a fit. I think I was getting tilted by people repeatedly on the past podcast episodes, accusing both the guests and Balor and myself, all of us, depending on which episode you're looking at, depending on who's positive and who's negative. There are people saying like GGG shills and how much is GGG paying you and you're part of the problem and whatnot. You're speaking for the 0.1%. And after being accused of shilling for GGG and like censoring my disgust with the direction of the game in favor of having a good relationship with them, I kind of exploded and responded at length to a YouTube comment. And then instantly after, actually directly while writing the post, I realized, okay, this is a little bit ragey and I should probably not post this. But then it was like, there's so many things.
Did it anyway.
Well, I did it anyway because I thought I had something valuable to say. And even though it's hyperbolic and I should have added more context, the thing was already quite long. I think there was some value in there. I'm sure you disagree, but I'm just going to read it out on stream right now so everyone can hear it. And then you can call me out on everything you think that is wrong with it. What do you think about that?
As well.
So basically, again, we got accused for self-censoring our opinions to not burn bridges with the devs. And I was like, this could go another way as well. This could go completely the other way. And I said, I can't speak for anyone but for myself, but you're right. Just not in the way you think, because I self-censor, because if I tell people honestly how much I like the direction of changes, they would hate me. It happened in 3.15 and it's happening now. There are a lot of old school players who have been watching the game that they fell in love with, becoming more casual and more ridiculous with pooping out loot and player power for years and years, and most of those old school players have not been very vocal about it. Why? Because we're not entitled a-holes and we realize that the game needs to be easier, less hardcore, and less grindy than it was in 2013 if we want the company to have the financial success they deserve. And we're willing to compromise in favor of the game appealing to a wider audience because we love this game so much. We want to share it with more people and we're happy to give up some of what we love about it to have that happen. The new audience that GGG has been catering to is far less forgiving, and if after going 10 steps forward, GGG decides to go one step back, it causes an enormous outrage of people who feel entitled to get easier and easier progression and more loot every single patch. Why? The normal game is already a snooze fest without private league mods for the most part. Easy sailing, especially if you decide to play one of the ridiculous meta builds. You can get automatic flasks, immunity to all ailments, you can face tank most endgame bosses while dealing double-digit millions of damage, and that's all within reach if you just plan to build around it. I used to cringe at Diablo 3 gameplay footage, and nowadays I look at it and it's like, that's basically PoE, but in a different color, and I have no clue what's going on. And I'm told the itemization is a little less deep. And in the same way, the new audience, which makes up the majority of players now, can't accept a single patch where GGG is trying to dial back things a bit and to keep systems in check so they don't get out of control. They also can't accept anyone who doesn't agree with their unhappiness about the direction of the game. The community wants to hear their upset echoed by the streamers they watch, and if that's not happening, well, then they're shills and part of the problem and the reason that the game is dying. So yeah, I very much have to censor myself. Sorry I used your post for venting. I hope you didn't feel like I'm addressing you specifically with this, but I wanted to show that there's another side to what you're suggesting here. I do think there's legitimate criticism and we can always talk about it, but in a constructive way and a respectful manner, both towards the community and the developers. And keeping in mind that the general direction of the game is still very much catering to the casual gamer, more and more, and I doubt that that's going to change with PoE 2, because that's where the money is. so I wouldn't worry too much. And then I added, just for the record, Harvest was fine as a one-off leak, but it should have never gone into core. And it's part of the reason we have all this upset now. So this is a lot to unpack, obviously. I usually don't do long monologues on the channel, and it's most on the podcast because it's mostly about the guests that we bring on. But since this has sort of going viral on my Twitter, it's been my most engaged tweet in a long time. I thought I'd ask you on your opinion about this. Before I let you talk about it, though, I want to say that it's very much the other extreme, right? This was very reductive and hyperbolic, and I wish, in retrospective, I would have even written more and given a lot more context. And I certainly didn't want this.
Writing a book?
Yeah, actually.
That's a lot of typing.
Well, I kind of exploded, It's like this, when I said I threw a fit or something like it's this moment where like the straw breaks the camel's back and you just snap and you're like, no, I'm not going to let this happen anymore. I'm going to stand up for myself now. Right? And I just let it all out. But yeah, it was a lot. So, Balor, now the podium is yours. You're very welcome to criticize me as harshly as you want for this.
I don't even know if I want to. There's too much in there. It would take so long. I don't know. I feel like I'm always censoring my own opinions, though. I feel like, isn't everyone censoring their own opinions? Isn't that a thing normal humans do?
I think
you have an opinion, and then instead of saying the words that are in your brain, you work out how to say it, but less offensively, and try not to upset people. And then you say still your opinion, but in a measured tone instead of your instant reaction, right? Like, isn't that the whole point?
Well, that's a human thing to do, right? You don't tell your boss that he's an abusive asshole or whatever.
Learn that. That's learned behavior. That's not normal things that I do. Because
you don't comment on your boss's hair.
Unless your boss is Israel.
Right? Like, but because autism, that was a learned behavior. And so when I get people going like, "It's censoring his opinion," I'm like, this is what I was taught to do. You don't want to hear the direct thoughts in my brain. Like, that's not, no one's ever been happy with that, ever.
I don't think everybody should just impulsively blurt out what's in their little pee-pee brains all the time. I think
right?
censoring and reshaping your message is just part of being an adult.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's ridiculous that, yeah, we've had a lot of that, and there's also been a lot of that, like in different streams and in Reddit, and people being like, look at them censoring their opinions, and I'm like, you want to interact with people, you censor your opinions, like that just happens.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
It just happens.
I wouldn't say that that's the same thing, though. I wouldn't say that like being a normal human being and communicating in a way that you would like to be communicated with is the same as censoring your opinions. You can still have like a negative opinion of something, but like it doesn't have to be censored to be more palatable, but you can just express it in a constructive manner. And I think, I mean, that's what I said in the bottom, right? Like you have to be understanding and respectful to both the community and the developers. One thing I wanted to point out, one thing that instantly after posting that, like within the hour when I felt bad, I was in the kitchen like making pizza dough, and I was like, damn, I shouldn't have gone that hard on that guy, because he was also the most friendly out of all the people who pointed out that stuff, but he took it in a positive way, so I'm happy. But one thing I really would have liked to include in the post would have been like an more explicit disclaimer that I don't want to invalidate other people's experiences with it, that I don't want to be like, hey, that's just because you want more loot and you want more zoominess and you want an easier game, because you can't reduce all criticism to that, right? But I certainly feel that there are a lot of people who just feel like if the game doesn't get more rewarding every patch, that GGG is wasting their time or not respecting their time. when you have to work
feel
more
like
for the same.
for a player base that understands that the game changes every 3 months, they're so horrible at figuring out how to adapt to that change that comes every 3 months. Like, it's never been a secret that GGG has like their own thing of what they want out of the game that will always change, and knowing that it changes every 3 months and things get deleted, things get reverted. I feel like at least the echo chamber that you see are pretty bad at adapting to that.
Oh, I totally
Like the
agree with that.
change, yeah, the change to me is like the fun part. Like I might whine about it because something I personally want in the game is being changed, but that's kind of like the fun part is you get a new set of challenges for the league. You get a different meta sometimes, and you figure out how to make it work. I think that's the fun part of GGG. But I feel like for some people want like a game that doesn't change as much. I feel like.
Yeah, I think I said something very similar on one of the previous episodes where I was like, the changes every league, that's the puzzle that we have to solve. That is the game. And like every league is a new state, and people are way too occupied mentally with what they don't have, rather than like focusing on what we do have right now and what we can do. Like many people I see talking about what they could do last league and now they can't do anymore. But instead, like what I want to see more conversation about is like, okay, what can we now do to alleviate the problem? Because, yeah, I don't know. I've seen a lot of people, I'm not saying everyone is like that. I've seen people, specifically Captain Lance, for example, being like very, very positive and looking to what is still there that we can do now. And there's so many good things that we can do now. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's some things that they do that, in my opinion, are detrimental, but I also am not sitting here trying to look at a bigger picture. I only care about like my own viewpoint, my own personal gameplay experience for the most part, right? That's what everybody does. I don't sit here and try and figure out, what would make the game overall for everybody else because, you're playing by yourself. Who cares? But yeah. I feel like there are some things that are negative that GGG has done.
Oh, undoubtedly.
At the same time, I feel like people just kind of want like a doomy echo chamber and just don't want change. I feel like.
Well, I feel specifically
people being mad about the change and not being told was only a part of the puzzle. That's not the whole thing. There are definitely people who are complaining of changes themselves, not the changes and then not being told.
Yeah.
And it's
not being told parts like a different thing. Like there was some bits left out we should have known about beforehand, but that's not
for sure. And that was a mistake, and they admitted to it, and that's fine. I'm not really sure how you overlook that, but still, like this is the same conversation and thing every single league is. There's changes. There's, in my opinion, a minority. I feel like people who are enjoying the game and don't care just aren't saying anything. You just hear about the people that are complaining.
Yeah, it's a sort of bias also, because the people who are enjoying the game are mostly not going onto Steam to write a positive review, but the people who are rage quitting the game because they don't agree with the changes, they are not playing, and therefore they have the time to go on Steam and on Reddit and to vent about what they don't like. So it's somewhat skewed, because negative feedback is posted more frequently than positive feedback, and it's also echoed more strongly and leads to more engagement. I've personally been very vocal also about the problems that I saw with the communication from GGG early on about Chris' post. I mean, I even got mentioned by some other people because I had a very rage-baity thumbnail with like a face and like he said what and Chris Wilson's face on there. But I really felt that the communication post from Chris had like a number of things that didn't really clarify, but just was lacking information and could have been phrased a little bit better. But there was a lot of good things in there, and I think I also pointed them out. Do you have any hot takes on this, Lily? Want to speak on this, or do you want to avoid getting into the controversy?
No, I don't mind. Well, going back a little bit about people saying that people are not mad about the changes, but mad that they weren't told about them. I think that's a major copium. I just think that would have made people mad earlier. I mean, yeah, some people are going to be mad about it, but I don't think the overall level of rage would be any difference if they just said it in the patch notes, which they should have. I'm not saying they shouldn't have or whatever. They definitely should have. I think the response would be overall largely the same, even if they had gone out and had everything super transparent. Like, people really only care about the game itself at the end of the day, so the same people are going to be screaming. Another thing I want to think about is the people who are actually complaining. I think a lot of them played day one and never come back.
It's gotten a
I
lot
noticed
better.
this, like last league, for example. People played day one, never came back, but complained the entire league, even though last league was largely regarded as like the most rewarding league in like ever.
And also one of the best states of the game.
Yes, but people were just like, because they started day one with how busted Arch Nemesis was, never came back and complained about the entire league like it was broken for the full 3 months and didn't end up being, in a lot of people's opinions, the best state of the game / league. It's been a long time.
Yeah, I've noticed that also, like, even on some content creators, they, like, played the first weekend, then quit playing, but then kept speaking on the topic and on the changes that were happening. In a sort of authoritative manner. And they just, when they actually hadn't been experiencing the changes firsthand, they just went over the posts and were like, yeah, this is not saving the game, I'm still not playing. Which... yeah, I don't know. But in regards to what you said earlier with communication not being the big factor, I do somewhat agree with that. But I also think there are a lot of people who play or plan to play the league and they prepare around it. They plan their builds, they plan their buddies' builds. They, take time off their jobs to play with their guild and all that. And if such a significant change is being made and they're left in the dark about it, I can totally see how that would upset them more than having the same change but knowing about it and being able to plan around it beforehand, being able to say, okay, I'm taking the league off, I'm not playing this one, or I'm playing slightly different, or I'm going to softcore instead of hardcore because I'm not sure how I will be doing. And for a lot of people that, in that case, I would agree with, it feels like that their time is not being respected because they plan to play the game, and then when they actually play the game, it's not the game that they plan to play.
That was specifically exactly what happened to me, which is why I think my response was so emotional at the front. And like so bad that I even took 3 days off and went and played Diablo 3 for 3 days, like right at the beginning of League. We're like 5 days in, and I'm like, oh, I'm off to play Diablo. It just took me a while to calm down.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same at first, like, especially because school started for me. So working school, I don't already get enough time that I would like to play PoE. But I will say this is like probably the most bored I've been playing a league with a combination of the changes and stuff. But yeah, I don't really play other games, so I kind of just ride in the salt waves.
Yeah, this is also the most bored I've ever been, but I think I'd be fine with the league pretty much completely. But the fact that it's been the same builds for about a year now, without any major changes, barring like lightning conduit, has been really tolling on me. Like, I've been playing the same builds for so long, and I feel like nothing's changed in forever in terms of like skill balance and stuff. Like it's just seismic. It's still seismic now, but now it's 30% worse. That doesn't feel good. This one, it's all the same builds, but they're just worse. Or like newer builds that were good were nerfed, and now I'm going back like a year and a half to old builds that were meta way long ago. That doesn't feel very good to me, and that's a large contributor to why I'm super bored with the game.
Yeah. I think, like, if everything were to stay the same, but they kind of touched Harvest, I think I personally would be happy. That's, like, the biggest boring factors in me, because I felt like I hit maps, and there were so few, like, avenues for me to craft stuff to get rolling compared to before. Because, like, I did early Harvest with no investment at all because I didn't have the points. But just, like, running into a Harvest, it wasn't even fun because you just didn't even get enough stuff to do anything with. And then I heard people talking about it's, like, not even really worth until, like, T16 when you can actually get some Light Force, which kind of sucks because before you could run lower tier maps to look for Harvest, like Ruled Jewels or something like that, but you can't even do that anymore.
Yeah.
I think if I had, like, an avenue aside from just running around trying to find essences to craft a little bit more, I don't think I would be as bored because crafting's fun for me.
Yeah, I've seen that
Yeah.
from a lot of people, that at the top end, Harvest gives you still a lot of crafts. Sure, you're missing some of the core crafts, but that's something you could survive with. But the removal of a lot of the power that Harvest granted really hurts early on when you're getting into maps and you're trying to get your mapping gear going. I'm sorry for cutting you off there. Lily, you wanted to say something?
I don't remember. I've got something.
Did I talk that long?
I just got a goldfish brain.
On the topic
yeah, I
of
don't
Harvest.
like being Harvest and crafting. I don't like being. It's pretty jarring going from how it was last league to being thrust into like back into the dark ages of crafting.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
I think crafting like medium tier gear is in a pretty okay spot, but beyond that, it doesn't really feel worth to do a lot of things. And then also the progression of when you first get into maps, making starter gear doesn't feel like a good spot either.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's good for the middle ground, but then the other two ends are really bad.
I think even when I do my solo self-round runs, one of the first things that I do is block Harvest because I've hated it forever. So my opinion's probably invalid because I'm looking at Harvest and just being like, yeah, fuck it. The whole thing can go.
I think before
like
you were blocking hers, I think you're like mild trolling. I think.
No, it's 100% trolling. That's not even mild.
I'm being nice, but it's just mild trolling, you know.
No, it's 100% stupid. I did it on principle just because I didn't like it and I wanted to make sure I could still exist and continue in solo self-found without it, which you can. You absolutely can. I definitely made it way harder for myself by blocking Harvest, though. But like that's just how much I didn't like it. But just on principle, I would block it. So like it's fine. I don't know how much validity my opinion has on it, being as I'm one of the people that wanted Harvest just gone. I never wanted it to come back to begin with. So I agree with all the points. Like top end crafting died, but like I'm also okay with that. like I don't think that one person should be able to say every single league I'm going to craft this mirror tier item. Having a mirror tier item isn't something you should just be able to achieve.
I feel like aside from Recombinators last league, like it was still effort and a feat to be able to like make good gear, because that was my SSF run and I spent, hours chasing resources and stuff to craft, and I wouldn't call it mirror tier, but it was still definitely high end and it was fun. And then obviously the next league Recombinators, that was like crafting dopamine dump. And then this league is just like withdrawal.
There's the funniest bit though. I hate Harvest. Loved Recombinators. They were way stronger too. Like Recombinators, actually so strong.
Well, Recombinators just drop. They don't make you stand still in your map for 20 minutes looking for bases in your stash.
Yeah. I don't look, my opinion on Harvest, I am aware, is not objectively correct. I am aware.
Wait. There's such a thing as objectively correct for opinions?
Well, I'm aware that there were a bunch of places where Harvest was good and helpful to people. And I'm aware that a lot of those places don't exist now. It can't be used for those things. And that a lot of holes have been left that people are used to having. I'm aware of all of those things. I hated Harvest. I've always hated Harvest. I didn't like it when it came back after Harvest League. I never wanted to do it in the game to begin with. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. It's not. Everyone else is right. They've killed a lot of things. I do feel like it's only really good at the mid tier. It's useless when you first get to maps. You can't afford to craft anything anyway, and it's not that useful in super end game crafting. But like, I didn't want it to begin with, so I'm just not upset about it.
I haven't used it at all, but Reforge more likely is still good, right? At the top end. I remember that's how I made like a...
fixed now. They were named in reverse.
Yeah, but it's still good. Like I remember using it to make my... I made a helmet in Gauntlet with +2 minion gems and tier 2 spell suppression. And the 3.17 Gauntlet, I believe. And that was really easily done with Reforge more likely, and I think I still do the same thing.
Did they fix it?
Yeah, I believe it is heavily nerfed now.
I was going to say, I've used it less than 5 times, and all 5 times were just like complete swap around bricks.
So there's 2 things. They used to be Reforge more likely and Reforge much more likely. And we would only ever use much more likely, which was 10 times more likely instead of twice as likely.
Yeah.
So we've now got, or something along those lines. It's like 1/10 the power. We don't have much anymore. So it's not as common. Like it used to be almost every stat would be the same. Like you'd be like, I only got 5 stats. We'll go again. We'll
but they never announced like any sort of an adjustment to that this league, right? Okay.
But the second part, that's perhaps even a bigger problem, is at the beginning of the league, they had misnamed all of the crafts. So Reforge more likely was actually Reforge less likely, and Reforge less likely was actually Reforge more likely.
Yeah. And
that was like that for like the whole first week. So that screwed a lot of people over. But that is fixed now.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, Harvest was just too central to the item creation process. I do think that in the long run, it's better for Harvest to go. But just removing it like that, and like, they could have told people more precisely what they're going to remove so people could plan around it and be prepared for it, A. And B, obviously, it's a little bit rough to remove all that crafting power, especially at the low end, right? At the top end, people will be able to deal with it. They'll find other ways. They'll have to invest more maybe into making their real good GG items. But at the top end, they can deal with it. But I think the most upset happens at the mid tier, like you said, where it just leaves a massive gap and there's nothing right now to replace it. And I'm sort of hoping that the next league will deliver on that and give us like new crafting power, maybe already the return of recombinators in some shape or form. And maybe we'll get like a sort of, we've been getting 2.0 versions of a lot of leagues, right? We've been getting Beyond 2.0, we've been getting Nemesis 2.0, we've been getting like Synthesis or Incursion 2.0, and maybe we'll get a sort of Harvest 2.0, right? Like something that doesn't break the game and that can stay in the game forever and that doesn't invalidate pretty much all other things that you could use in an item creation process. But in the past, like especially before recombinators, Harvest was heavily involved into in the creation process of pretty much every GG item. And knowing GGG, they don't want that much centralized power in one mechanic. They want people to go back and forth between the different things. It's just they've sadly stripped away a lot of power without replacement for people in a league that already is less rewarding. And then on the other point that Lily brought up, the fact that the meta has been stale, that resonates so well with me. I was so hoping that they're going to do like a massive skill overhaul, like the entire horizon of the skills selection. There's more than 300 gems in the game, right? Or actually, no, skill gems is more like between 100 and 200. But they haven't done any changes in 3.18, right? We had the same balance state as 3.17 for the most part. There's been some, other circumstances that affected the skill balance because of the availability of certain items and stuff like that. But there was no direct skill changes. And the fact that they didn't really give us all that much in terms of changes this league, at least not in the way that would change the landscape of viable skills significantly, and then only, quote-unquote, getting 3 new skills. I was hoping for more, and I'm hoping that maybe that was their plan, and they just didn't get it ready in time, and they were like, okay, we're going to do it properly, and then we're going to release it with the next patch or something like that. I'd really love to see like a revival of all these old underused skills, strike skills, melee in general, but also like just old abilities that don't fit into the current game. They've, for a long time in the past, like a year ago or two, they've done a lot of reworks and like new skill introductions centered around certain archetypes, right? That was part of their promo material always. Like this time we're pushing like a sort of, what was it? Like these archetypes, I don't remember. There was this Templar sort of thing that they did.
Self-casting, I feel like, was the last, like...
Yeah, self-casting and trappers, miners, hand-casting. Yeah, the hand-casting meme, exactly. I'd love to see more of that. Hey, do you guys think we will see something like that? Like a significant change of which skills can be used and which can't before PoE 2? I hope it before PoE 2.
I hoped it was this league.
Same.
I expected it this league, actually, not just hope.
Same. I think... I don't really know. Obviously, I play melee builds, so bias would like to see melee changes. Especially because, like, if you're hardcore bottom left and you don't go suppression, it's like feels kind of bad in comparison to other things. It seems like the only real viable skill melee wise is probably lightning strike. Bone shatter seems pretty okay, but I feel like in terms of defense and other skill buffs, I feel like melee could get a little help.
I'm always hanging out for an actual bow league. I mean, they've said bow league twice now, but they didn't. One of them they didn't do anything, and in the second one they nerfed bows.
Isn't every league bow league?
It is if you try hard enough. I really like bows.
Yeah, I think bows feel so good. They're such a comfort zone and comfort pick for so many people that regardless of the balance state, they're going to make it work. They're going to pour in the investment to get that comfort.
Yeah.
Which to me says that there's at least something okay with the balance state of bows if people like them so much that they're willing to go the extra mile to be able to play them. What's your angle on this, Lily? Which melee skill would you like to see make a comeback? All of them.
I don't really have a particular skill. I do have another critique, though. I'd like melee skills to not just be, okay, I can make this melee build with whatever Molten Strike say, for example. But I could just make it an Omni build and now it's way better. And that's practically every melee skill.
pretty much.
Especially with the way crafting is now, because Omni crafting is still not, like, it's way easier than a lot of other builds, because essences are really huge for it.
And fractured stuff is really huge for it as well. And we got way more of that as well.
I've seen
Yeah.
some pretty nutty like the reflected rings. I've seen quite a few like insane attribute ones as well.
Oh yeah, I've seen triple attribute rings with like
Let's go.
130 each or so.
I agree though. I feel like if you just throw an Omni on lots of melee skills, it just makes it infinitely better on its own. Omni and just go spell suppression and there's your melee build. It feels kind of bad.
As a side note, I don't think that's melee. I just think that's all attack. Because it's the same for wands and bows. If you've got the budget, just go Omni. It's better. Any attack build.
I don't think that's... Please go ahead, Riro. I've already talked a lot. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of items like that. Like, I don't really like Omni. Omni is not as big of an offender as Ashes is, but I don't like when there's an amulet that basically you slap on the build and it's better than practically everything and requires, like, at least Omni requires thought, but it feels like if I'm doing, I guess, an attack build in general, I shouldn't really think about anything other than Omni. I don't like being pigeonholed into that singular item. I don't really know how they'd fix it. I guess nerf the numbers more and make you invest more into it, but it doesn't really feel worth going anything else.
Yeah, bring in other strong options. I don't mind Omni being a thing. I think it's actually really cool to itemize around. It's a really cool item and exciting to build around, but it shouldn't be the only powerful option that attack builds have.
Yeah, that works too. Putting other options. I mean, I guess there's leadership's price too, but it's not.
If you can define your gear to be.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm unaware. What's leadership's price? Am I stupid?
Say amulet, heist amulet that if your top 2 attributes are balanced, which is super annoying to do, especially if you're not even like level 95, because then when you level up, if you have to take a travel node, it'll mess it up. But, and then when your top 2 attributes are balanced, it gives you it swaps all your ailments to being the alternate ones, like Scorch and Brittle.
Oh, right.
It's slightly better because it's elemental conflux as well. So all damage applies to Brittle, all damage applies to Scorch, all damage applies to Sap.
Yeah. Well, only alt element conflux is not. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah.
You can't ignite, chill, freeze, or shock anyway with it. Yeah, I brought it up. Right.
Yeah, it's really, really, really good, but it was already super annoying to balance stats.
Plus, you can't. Even if you have divines, you can't divine it because it's corrupted, and it has like a.
You have to divine other gear so that it matches.
Yeah, but also like, I mean, it goes between -3 and +3 maximum single elemental res. So
yeah.
So
I feel like it's easier to farm these up though than an Omni because you're guaranteed it from twins, and then you just farm more of those.
And you just wear a law weave at the same time, and you don't matter about its rolls at all.
Fair. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, lore weave counters the downside. If it's the downside. I mean, the thing is though, like, eventually you always want to upgrade to one that has +3 all, right? Or at least +3, +2, +3 or something like that. And then it's better than
those ones
using
are
lore weave.
super rare.
Yeah.
I think somebody in our private league got 332, and that's like insanely rare to get positive 332. I think the most common one that's like easily attainable is maybe like a positive 321 or something.
Does the line disappear when it rolls 0, like it does on Aventers?
Yes.
That's neat.
I don't think I've ever seen a 000 one. That'd look funny.
It'd just have that one line of you have conflux and cannot ignite, freeze, or chill, and that'd be it. That'd look weird. My dream item for, I don't know, like 8 years now has been I want an empty Ventus Gamble. I just want a Ventus Gamble that just doesn't have a roll at all. No line of text at all on it. That's my dream item for standard. I want it one day.
That would look really cool.
You just get a ring and wipe it and then put the MTX swap on it. There you go.
Yeah, we already talked about it. It was like mostly annoying that we didn't know about the massive changes or some of the massive changes. But if you could go back and like restart the league, or if you were restarting the league tomorrow, what would you do different knowing everything that we know now going into the league? I think Balor should go first because Balor probably already knows exactly. Because you probably just be doing what you're doing right now. You just be skipping the attempt of doing the 2-man party juiced maps.
Well, it's because we started with the intent of going into juiced maps on day 2 with like a sleep schedule and everything and a duo. I never would have duo. There's no party play. Get rid of that. Throw MF away. Don't worry about that. Don't need to do juiced content. So I just started Corrupting Fever. I'd have had a great time. Corrupting Fever is a fantastic build. It's one of the fastest mappers you can do. It maps super good. It just doesn't scale past like 40% Delirious at the hardest. That's as good as it'll ever get. But I'm never going to go past that, so that's not a problem. I could have had a really fun league start if I knew ahead of time.
That's fair.
I also would have bought a lot of memories because we bought a ton of memories just to run, and like we bought like Essence memories at like 4C or 10C, and Harvest memories at like 10C that are like half a divine now. And like, I'd have bought tons of them.
Did you start too late buying them? Were they already expensive when you found out that they were so good that you want to buy them?
No, it just, when we were running them, we kind of ran out of money because we re-rolled. Well, I re-rolled like 3 times in 4 days. And that got expensive. And then we I figure because you bought all the MF gear on the first day and day 2 before people found out that it's basically not as good as it was, and then it probably all dropped in price rather than actually gaining in value. And then I re-rolled and had to craft a bunch of my own gear to make a Spark character to go with the Aura bot. Ended up doing 280 million DPS when standing beside the Aura bot, which was great, except I discovered real quick that I don't like bossing and I don't like invitation farming, and none of that is fun, so we had to re-roll a 3rd time. And then I took a few days off and went and played Diablo, and now I'm back and broken in a market that's grown past where it normally would, looking at the ways to make money and being like, I don't want to craft, I don't want to flip, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that. So I'm just hunting down fun now. But at least I could have started with a build that would have worked for the stuff I want to do now, instead of target focused builds that only did one thing, but they did that one thing very, very well. I would not have done that. That's all.
How about you, Lily? Would you change anything, or would you make the same mistakes again? Did you make any mistakes in your perspective?
No, never. I would have kept Sentinels in the game, but tweaked somehow either the drop rate or.
Okay, I meant from a player perspective rather than a developer perspective. But that's interesting as well. Please elaborate.
Well, I just would have left them in the game. That's it.
All right.
I'd be fine with everything if they're in the game. But player perspective.
Yeah, knowing everything that we know now, if
Uh,
you were to league start tomorrow, what would you do different? That was the question.
No, nothing. I'd have done everything the same.
Fair. How about you, Iiyra? I mean, you already knew a lot going into the league, seeing that you started 5 days into the league, but
Yeah, I had the benefit. I probably would, at least how my start went, I probably would have done the same. I probably would have put less focus on harvest so early because I didn't realize how bad it was. I probably would have just blocked it and left it alone until later.
oh, I'm sorry. I quickly need to go AFK because otherwise they're gonna ring the bell again. Can you keep it going?
Pretend he's still listening.
Yeah, I think everything would be about the same. I just would have not had harvest copium and tried to rely on that to get early crafting done. I probably would have just tried to force essences more.
Yeah, I think I put a video with like a bunch of trees for softcore for the Atlas tree, and all 5 of them had harvest in it. It's because we're talking early league trees. Like, who's not going to take the harvest nodes? Like, you should definitely do. Nope.
I mean, in theory, like their harvest idea was like super great, but the life force issues and then the crafts being swapped on the bench kind of killed it. And since they already said that since they already said recently that essentially harvest is about where they want it, you kind of just have to deal with the life force, and it's like, okay.
I feel that way about so many of the changes though. They're like, in theory, the idea they were going for is so good on so many things.
Yeah.
Like even the removal of juice, what they were going for when they described what they wanted, I was like, that sounds appropriate. I can get behind that. Like, it'll hit me. It'll be sad. It'll get rid of Beyond. But like, that makes sense. And then the execution happens and you're like, oh, no, please. Yeah. That's, I don't know. I think this is where I'm getting my copium amount, where I feel like next league start is going to be fine. Because like the direction they wanted, that they described, I'm on board with all of it. So I don't know. I feel like I'm going to be happy next league start. Hopefully. I may be on the copium. I may be on a large amount of copium.
Maybe that's the strat. Slap you and beat the shit out of you so they can give you a cookie later.
I will take a cookie. It's fine. I don't mind. Oh.
Curious how they're planning on fixing the rares to not feel like loot goblins.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't. When they said something about like wanting to fix how bad it felt that people had to look for a color, get MF gear, I was like, I don't even know how you would try to fix that other than do something stupid that would inevitably affect something else.
I suspect a lot of it is perception problems. I don't think it's actually as bad as I even thought it was 3 or 4 days ago. Because I was complaining about that, and I had one color come in one time, and I did get like 8 divine orbs. But then we were talking about it, and we realized that I was running super juiced content. It was a Legion mob. I was like 7 altars in. It was like 180 something quant total, and like there was so much on the map that made it rewarding. And I actually got talked to by a few people from TFT who are running culling services who were like, we're getting like 1 divine on average, 1 to at most 3 from random people's maps when we go in and do them. Which is like, if they did it themselves, they might have got a divine anyway. And so it might be the case that me and people like me were overstating it by quite a large margin, quite a lot more than we thought. And that it's still like worth having a color. Like, obviously it's still a thing, but I think a lot of it might have been just overstated by people, especially including myself, how much of a difference it made. Because it's not the like 15 divines if you go get a color and 1 if you do it on your own thing that I was saying. It's more like 1 to 3 and probably 1 on your own. So like it's still worth it, but it's not nearly as extreme as I was painting it out to be. It turns out I was wrong. I didn't think I was lying to people, but like colors from TFT reached out and were like, you need to stop telling people this. This is not what's happening. Here's some screenshots of like random people's maps we've gone in from, and here's some results, and like it's there, it exists, but it's not nearly as extreme as you think it is. And I'm like, ooh, I'm wrong. Okay.
So you're saying it's okay, or does it need tweaking?
It's still bad that it exists. It's still like not a state. It's just that the extremity that I had wrong, right? Like it's still worth getting a color if you're willing to. It's just not. I was talking like you might get a divine, and if you get a color, you'll probably get 15. But that wasn't the extreme. It's like you'll probably get 1, you might not, but you might. And if you get a color, you'll almost certainly get 1, and maybe you'll get a second, right? Like it's more like that.
So it's like 100 to 200% more.
Yeah, which is it's still a thing, and people are still going to want to get colors quite often, but it's not near. It's just I was touting it as a lot more extreme, and it wasn't just me. A lot of other people were as well. And I need to try and correct that because I was part of the problem with that misinformation, right?
No, that's great that you own up to it. But the question would then be, is it okay if there is an advantage to getting a color, or should it be completely eliminated? Because like if the fear of missing out is not that great, if the difference is not that great, is it in a good place, or should it just generally not exist? Because that would also completely remove that style of play of like building an MF color or building like a specialized MF character.
I still don't think it should be a thing, right? Even if it's only 1 extra divine on average from getting a color instead of 14, like I was saying, it still shouldn't be a thing. It still absolutely shouldn't be a thing. I don't want a thing where I don't want to ever have to tell someone, oh, you found a disgustingly good mob, you need to not kill it. Your job now is to not kill the exciting mob. And to go over to a Discord server, message a random stranger to come in and kill it for you. That's not fun. The whole game is find mobs and kill them. I don't know what the solution is. I don't have a solution. I don't know how to fix it. I don't want to get rid of MF, obviously, because MF is like, I love it. It's a thing that I do a lot of. And I'm super glad that I don't have to come up with a solution. That's not my job. I'm real happy about that because my solutions would not be good. I've come up with solutions in the past, and they're usually not the right ones. I'll just point at the problem and be like, "That's a problem. Please fix it." And then it's their problem, not mine.
You got any strong feelings either way, Lily?
She's gone.
Wait, she's
Back
gone?
in a minute.
Fighting.
What?
Yeah.
What's happened? Okay, I didn't see it. Oh, she just left. Okay. Sorry, I was looking at the gameplay. I don't have 3 screens, so I only see 2 of my 3 screens at the same time. Because, like...
Should get 4.
Yeah.
That's many I've got.
Yeah. It's a plan for the future. But first I need to build up the YouTube channel and make the big bang videos. Get all the numbers and stuff like that. Well... Do you have strong feelings, Iiyra? You probably said something with in regards to the topic already when I was downstairs.
Yeah, same as Balor. It feels bad. It's still worth it, I think, to get it in a color, especially because since divines are rarer than X, and a lot of crafting can be gated behind, how many divines do you have? I think it's still worth having a color MF gear. How you fix something that feels bad like that, I have no idea.
Doesn't it feel good in a group found league though? Doesn't it feel good if you can like have that sort of role distribution within the people who play or throughout the league?
we have 2 in our private league, but the idea that you see something and you have to stop your map and coordinate to get somebody else in and make sure that they don't die just to call it, just like, I don't want to have to stop my map so that I can bring in somebody for the chance at, 1 extra divine or something like that. It just feels bad.
I stop my map all the time because I'm too stupid to have remnants and alks and all that stuff on me. So the moment I find an essence mob with a corruptible essence or like an operative strongbox that I want to roll, I have to leave the map anyway because there's no way I have currency on me.
Yeah.
There's a 0% chance I would ever do that. If I open my inventory and I forgot to bring corruption essences, that essence just gets opened. What do you mean? Who goes back to their hideout to pick up a corruption thing? You just go, man, forgot corruptions again. You just open it.
Yeah.
Me?
You get them next
Essences?
time.
I mean,
I
the
don't know.
thing
I
is,
think essences are very, very worth to corrupt if you have more than 4. If you're fully spec'd in.
They absolutely are, but I don't know if I don't bring one with me, if it's not in my inventory, I'm not going back. I'll just be like, oh well.
not even an
Essences are the
SSF.
one thing that I'll go out of my way to get corruptions for. Anything else, I don't really care.
I go back for it because, especially for me, the limiting factor is always the remnants. Like I only have like 4 or 5 remnants, and then if I don't have them on me, I know that I only have to go back as long as I have them. And if I don't have any in my stash, then there's no point in going back anyway. So I'm always like, want to get
I feel
these
like
good.
you can sustain the corruption ones pretty decent if you take the 2 small nodes.
Yeah. I just don't
Better
invest
on
into
that one
essence
wheel.
right now because I'm like scared of essence in combination with AN mods.
True.
Like, I mean, I'd pick it if I were to farm essences specifically, but then I'd do it in like not the highest maps. But currently, I'm trying to push ahead my map progression, so I'm doing some of the highest maps that I have, and I want to fill out the atlas and everything. So
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that you full spec into essences and you never take it off your map device. I took them off my device 2 weeks ago, and I regretted it.
I think solo self found or small group found. I'm gonna agree. Just everyone
that's
in
where-
the whole league straight into essences never comes off.
Honestly, even if you're, I mean, I don't think I've played full trade since the Atlas changes. It's either been SSF or group SSF, and yeah, I never had a scenario where it was like, yeah, it's time to drop essences. The one time I did it, I regretted it so hard.
Yeah.
There's plenty of good reasons in a full trade environment to drop it. Just
Yeah.
different strategies and stuff that don't. It's just better to not go near essences, but
Yeah, and then you can just buy the essences and trade that you can't or that you need or anything.
But I couldn't see not having them in solo self found or.
I mean, just because you don't spec
into
into the nodes in the tree doesn't mean you don't have any essences. There's still plenty of essences to be had.
Have 0.
Yeah, I feel like
if you've got 6 greed essences, you might as well have 0. Like
I think
need like
the
100.
essence nodes are very, very good. I feel like doing essences without it just feels so bad.
Yeah, but would you not do an essence just because you find it and you don't have the nodes? You just skip it?
No, of course. Still gonna click it, but
Yeah.
you just sit there and think, oh my god, imagine if I had essence nodes right now.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, no, and especially, you're right with SSF and group, and especially in the context of this league where we have like a great source of fractured items, which combine very well with essences.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything that you guys want to still bring up while we're waiting for Lily to come back to conclude the cast and to talk about our future ambitions for the rest of the league? And specifically from Lily, I'm curious what she's going to do instead of the gauntlet. Oh, Lily's coming back. The return of the Lily. Doc arrived.
Doc arrived.
We all just silently waited for you. Said nothing.
I would hope so.
Yeah, with there not being a gauntlet, what are you gonna do, Lily? What's the plan? You gonna become a variety streamer earlier this league?
Yeah, probably. I don't know if Last Epoch multiplayer comes out this league. Maybe do that.
Wait, does it?
I don't know.
They said something
heard.
about it's coming soon, but like I don't think we have a proper date on it.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say a lot of different numbers or things, so maybe. But I don't know. I mean, I do want to meme around in softcore, make stupid builds a bit, so I'll probably do that.
That's fair. Any particular meme build that you got your eye on, or?
No, not yet.
All right. How about you, Iiyra? Any plans, ambitions for the immediate future and the rest of the league? You gonna do BPL when it comes?
Probably not. I think we have our private league funded up until the end, and there's lots of people in our private league that historically always play right until the very end. So,
Sunk cost fallacy.
not so much. It's just our whole group is PP brain and just plays PoE regardless. So, I think right now, I think I'm pretty much just only map blasting and getting XP. I'm gonna push 100 and then respec this Marauder into Blade Flurry Cyclone and fuck around with some bosses. And then maybe craft some gear to try something off meta. I'm not sure yet. But yeah, I'll probably be still playing PoE.
Yeah, I can empathize with that. There's very few other games that I'm interested in playing as much as PoE. Sure, there's like Deep Rock Galactic and the one or other odd indie game that I'd like to look into, but playing them more than 4 or 5 hours at a time, some random off evening in the week, probably not. Probably going to come back to PoE, and with there not being a gauntlet, I'm looking forward to really like trying to complete my HCSSF journey this time and down some big stuff and build some really good characters and all that. Well, of course, that's only my ambitions. I'm probably going to die on the way horribly and end up making new characters like 10 times and then rage quit and restart in softcore trade and play with my guild.
Yeah, we'll be doing because I always do 40 challenges every league, so we'll be working towards my own challenge, and then we'll probably have a couple people in our private league that help get everybody else their challenges as well. So yeah, that itself takes time, I guess, farming resources so everybody can get their challenge.
True. And what about you, Balor?
I'm probably going to change Atlas strategies every 3 or 4 days until I find something that I find fun. And if I can't, then I'm going to find the most profitable thing, farm a Mage Blood, and then do the stupidest meme build that I can possibly think of, but try and make it work by wearing a Mage Blood and disgusting gear. But like something bad, like something that just shouldn't be a build, but just overpower it with raw currency.
I don't think you can fix Conversion Trap with Mage Blood.
No. But still, I'm gonna think of something bad. So and if that doesn't fill me with fun, I guess I'll re-roll in solo self-found. And then if that doesn't fill me with fun, I guess I need to like find more shifts at work, because I don't think so many people are gonna watch me play League of Legends. There's not a lot of audience for a bronze jungler around. It's not high value content, that. So I've got a list of ways to get fun, and I hope that one of them works.
You just gotta rage and scream into the microphone and call everyone the R word and go 0-17 in jungle. that works. Yeah, I mean,
I'm good at feeding. Don't worry about that. I'm bad at that video game.
Before we ultimately conclude Now, this is mostly a Path of Exile podcast, but I think we're all excited enough about Last Epoch. I just brought up the post here, and they had a development update September 2022, where they said that the community testers will be in full multiplayer test mode starting early September. And the plan is that they polish, improve, and prepare the upcoming multiplayer launch. So they didn't put a date on exactly when the multiplayer launch will happen, but they are basically announcing the alpha test for the community testers for the multiplayer. So big steps are being made, and very much looking forward to that. I'm probably going to play a little bit of Last Epoch by the end of the league in order to catch up with all the additions and changes that they've made to the game. Because I remember last time I played it, I was very bad at the game. I was really bad. Because so many things had changed. I have no idea what I'm doing. So.
Multiplayer. Oh. Man, I hope that comes out. If that comes out before the end of the league, that's the game.
Yeah. It's going to be great.
If that came out tomorrow, I would be playing that for the next 2.5 months.
2.5 months.
Yep.
I mean, it's going to be great, like playing with your community, playing with other PoE streamers, and like everyone being able to trade items. And the one thing that Chris always brings up with the value of the items really hinging on the fact that in theory you could trade it to someone else, and you have something that someone else could have, but they don't, and you have it, and that's what really makes the items feel good to you. That's what I've always been missing about LE. Is like, yeah, it's basically SSF. And I like SSF, but yeah, it's going to be a little bit better if I make or find a good item and I'm like, hey, this would be really good for my friend who has an item that would be really good for me. Oh, we can trade that. That's hopefully going to reignite my passion for trading in ARPGs. Because I'm really not fond of trading in PoE. I tried it last league in softcore trade and just made me feel miserable. It either makes me hate myself because I play the game in a way that I don't like, or it makes me hate myself because I miss out on all the potential gains that I could make by trading. All right. Well, I guess you're so silent because you're all super excited about the LE multi-patch, not because we've already been going for so long. Is there anything that you would like to say before we close? I'm going to post some links to the broadcasters in the channel. No one has remarks. So check out Lily. Lily has a lovely stream. She's closing in on the 100k followers, and you should support that goal. Then check out Iiyra, because she's playing with a lovely community and also has quality gameplay and quality catcam. And of course, as always, if you're not following Balor, then that's also something that should be on your to-do list. Because Balor is one of the nicest guys that I know around. And honestly, I've said that.
True at all.
Yeah, Balor is an asshole, but a likable asshole. No, like what I've always said is like, you know, there's just so many. I've talked about this on my own stream, but I've never said that to you or like on the stream, on the podcast. But it's like there's a lot of people that I could have picked to be the co-host for the podcast, the guy who's always there, the anchor, so to say. But I think in the long run, I wouldn't have been as happy as with having you on every episode, because you're just always, even if you're super negative and super disappointed, trying to look at things from a positive point of view and bouncing back. And always interested to check out perspectives that are different than your own, which is a positive quality to have in human beings.
I don't know how to take compliments. I'm just going to be here quiet for a second.
Well, just interpret it as not a compliment. Just interpret it as an insult.
Could you end it with an insult? That'd make me way more comfortable.
I have to try and come up with a good one. Can I open next podcast with an insult?
All right. I'll settle for that.
Also, I was super happy earlier when you said that Harvest should have never went core because you basically agreed with the last sentence in my post after having said you have nothing positive to say about my post. So there was one positive thing.
There was one. Yeah.
Right. So guys, follow the links in chat. Follow the broadcasters. Check out their streams. Support them with the Twitch Prime. And if you've missed the beginning of the podcast, this will be uploaded in full to my YouTube channel, twitch.tv/CatmasterOP. No, the YouTube version of that. And it's also to be found on all podcasting platforms, or at least most of them. And there was something else that is on my bucket list of things that I wanted to say on the podcast, but I pretty much forgot. So I'm just going to go ahead and announce that there will be another episode. We're not done with our 2 episodes per week schedule at all. There is another episode coming up, and that will be on Wednesday evening, once again, at 9 p.m. GMT. And we're going to be joined again by Leidy, who was here on one of the episodes leading up to the league. So it's going to be interesting to see the expectation versus reality take from Leidy. And we're going to bring on Beta Gaming, a South African gamer who's been doing some YouTube streams and some content, and it's been playing an interesting SRS Poison build that we're certainly going to talk about. So make sure that you're marking that episode in the calendar. I'm going to update the fated.fyi/next link, which always links to the countdown for the next episode. That's fated.fyi/next. And until then, I hope you find a lot of fun in the current Path of Exile, which is undoubtedly still there if you look hard enough, like we're trying to do. And until then, happy gaming, and see you for the next episode. And also thanks to Lily and Iiyra coming on. Dude, that's like a reoccurring theme. In the last 3 or 4 episodes, I've always remembered to thank the guests for coming on after I've concluded the podcast.
All right. Is it Iiyra or Iiyra? Because I keep saying Iiyra. So, right, I'm wrong then.
I always said Iiyra in the beginning because there's a character in Jagged Alliance 2 who's called Iiyra. You meet in like the second zone, and then she instantly becomes like a voluntary mercenary in your group. You don't need to pay her, and she's really good at medical.
Oh, that's not